Alrighty, I am going to make a start. First of all, welcome, hello. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Paul. I'm the Resources Manager here at Teachstarter, and I'll also be your host for this evening. We are coming to you from several locations, but the Teachstarter staff, we're coming to you from our offices here in Milton. So behind me there, you might be able to see, tip the screen down, just the computer set up there. Being 5 p.m. here in Brisbane, most people have finished up for the day, but you might see the occasional person walk past from time to time as they continue with their busy work or as they are finishing up for their day. Before we begin, there are a couple of things I would like to do. Firstly, and very importantly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the lands on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that respect to all First Nations people. Next, I have a couple of housekeeping items for you. As we're using the webinar function of Zoom, your mics and cameras are automatically turned off. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we can't take questions live from the audience this evening. But if you would like to ask a question, please do so by using the Q&A function. Trish and Mel, two of our TS or Teachstarter team members, are standing by and they'll happily answer any of your questions. And then finally, I just want to mention that while we aren't presenting this webinar as a professional development course per se, you may be able to count it towards your PD hours. Just check the PD requirements for your home state's teacher registration, or perhaps check with your school's professional development coordinator. Okay, so that's the introductions done and the housekeeping. Thank you again for joining us. So what I'd like to do is get started with our webinar this evening. We're going to go through in several parts. We're going to start off just by giving a brief introduction, just tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about our presenters tonight, a little bit about Teachstarter in general. And then we will get into our presentations for this evening and our guest speakers. So with that, let's get into it. And of course, there we go. First of all, about me, I am the Resources Manager here at Teachstarter. What does that mean? Well, essentially it means that all the resources that you see on the site, it's my job to help our team of teachers and designers make those and get them up to the website so that you can use them in your classrooms. There's a picture of me. We like to have a little bit of fun doing that. Thank you, Mel, for including that photo of me on the Teachstarter couch with the Teachstarter sign. Awesome. And then you can see us there on the right at a conference that we did last year when you could still go to conferences. Remember those days? They were so much fun. But there's me on the right with Mel, who's answering questions for us this evening on the far left, and Holly there in the middle. So about our event this evening and our speakers, I'll take you through them one by one. Maybe a little bit of a random order. So first of all, I'd like to talk to you and introduce Cath Williams. Cath is a warm and friendly teacher who has collected a wealth of knowledge over 3 decades in the classroom. In her webinar tonight, Cath is going to chat to you about the many changes that she's seen in the teaching profession. And Cath, would you like to say a quick hello for us this evening?
Hi everyone, how is everyone doing? All excited, nervous? Great to have you all here, thank you.
Thanks, Cath. We're also joined this evening by one of our Teachstarter content producers, Emma. Emma will take you through her experiences of starting a new school year and provide some advice on how to overcome those first day nerves. Good evening, Emma.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm very excited.
Good to have you here, Emma. Next, we have Emily Gallagher. Emily is a beginning teacher, full to the brim with enthusiasm, creativity and passion for teaching. She has just completed her first year in the classroom, and in her webinar tonight, Emily will share with you her insights into being a beginning teacher, and will give you some advice and share some of her experiences from her first year in the classroom. How are you going, Emily?
Hi, I'm very well, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And last, and well, I'll say not least, I will also be talking to you this evening, and I'll be talking to you about some behaviour management tips and giving you some ideas for developing your own behaviour management strategy. Okay, so those are our presenters for the evening and what we're talking about. A little bit about Teachstarter in general. So we've got stated there our purpose, creating a world where every child is inspired to build a purposeful and happy life through learning. And we also like to have a bit of fun doing it. So there's the team there at different times. That's, again, the top picture there is us standing in the little park across the road from our Milton offices. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Brisbane, Milton is an inner suburb of Brisbane, just outside the CBD, but nice and leafy and green, which we like about it because green is a good colour for Teach Starter and everything. And down the bottom there's one of our little events there, and there's us having a little bit of fun in the office. And as you can see, we hope that fun is obvious, and I hope it comes through in our resources as well that you will use in your classroom. So if you're a Teach Starter member, what do you get? Well, basically you get 140,000 plus pages of resources created by our expert team of teachers and talented designers. We have some activity-based inquiry tasks and project-based resources. If that's what you teach at your school, we've got you covered there as well. One of the best things we always like to point out is that all of our resources are curriculum aligned. So you can teach with confidence using our Teach Starter resources and your Teach Starter resources, knowing that they are aligned to Australian and state curriculums. If you're a Teach Starter member, you get unlimited downloads. So you can download as many resources as you like, and once you've got them, they're yours to keep. We also have an extensive range of classroom decorations. So classroom decor, posters, planners, theme packs, you name it, it's there. We can get your classroom looking great. And also you can customize your resources. So some of our resources you can actually adapt to suit your classroom. And particularly one of the things we're most proud of is having them in the various state fonts. So you can adjust the worksheets and other resources to make it as relevant to your students as possible. We also have a wide array of digital teaching tools. So here's some examples. We have some easy to use widgets, which help create wonderful experiences in and outside of your classroom. There's a Teach Starter app. You can take Teach Starter on the go, be prepared, while you're on the bus or the train, or just in general. We have an online lesson builder, very useful to helping you pull together the different resources into a lesson and move through with that. Very useful when we were doing the lockdown days. We got a lot of good feedback about that. And we also have Assess. Assess is a tool that helps you assign work to your students and get them to complete it on a digital platform. So worth checking out. We have over 750,000 members with us here at Teach Starter. And if you're a Teach Starter member, we are really happy to have you on board. And we're hoping if you're not a Teach Starter member, you'll be with us at the end of this. But we believe that if you're using our resources in your classroom, your student outcomes will improve because they are high quality resources, they're curriculum aligned, and they're going to do the job that they say they will do. And we're very proud of our resources that we put out there. One of the big things that we can offer you, particularly as a beginning teacher, is our Teach Starter community. So we do that in a number of ways. We do social media channels. So we're present on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're there. We have our Chalkboard blog, a blog that periodically comes out, several issues a week, where you can get some tips about teaching, things that are going on that people are talking about in education, keep you up to date with what's happening. We also have the Chalkboard newsletter, which goes out weekly at this stage. And again, lots of great information, pertinent information, highlighting some of the resources that we've just created that you might be interested in, and letting you a little bit know about what's going on here in the Teach Starter office. We also have our podcast For the Love of Teaching, hosted by Bron, who's the lovely lady in the picture there who's sticking her tongue out at us. I assume it's not me who's in the foreground there. It was just the person taking the photo, but that's the kind of fun we have here at Teach Starter. The podcast has so many things that we cover. It's been going for nearly 2 years, and pretty much if there's a topic in teaching that's happening, we've got a podcast for it. So I encourage you to check that out on whichever device or platform you use to get your podcasts. And then for yourselves as beginning teachers, I think this is probably the best one. Events and webinars and catch-ups and meetups. So we've got a picture there of one of our catch-ups that we had last year, back in the time when you could have it. So before that wonderful thing of COVID hit and put a limit on numbers. In that picture there, it's an interesting, two people knew each other there, but then the conversation sort of grew. And I remember having this conversation and we were just talking about what it's like being at school, helping each other out, sharing stories, giving each other a little bit of advice. It's one of the nice things that we're able to do. Now, obviously, we can't do that in a physical location, but we can do it through webinars like this. So do keep an eye on TeachStarter, on our social media channels, emails about upcoming webinars. You'll find, and we're striving to provide you with a lot of tips and advice that help make your teaching easier, help make your classrooms buzz, and hopefully save you a bit of time in the process. And just one little thing to finish off with, which I think you'll like. Did you know that TeachStarter offers a 50% off discount for student and graduate teachers? If you would like to apply for that, there's a little website address there. So teachstarter.com/grads. So to apply for it, go to that web address and we'll see what we can do for you. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this point. And now we'll start getting into our presentations. So I'd like to introduce our first guest for this evening, Cath Williams. As I mentioned earlier, Cath will be sharing her advice and experience from over 3 decades of teaching in the classroom. Cath, I'm going to throw over to you. Welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Hello to everyone watching, especially all you wonderful beginning teachers. I know your time is precious, so I greatly appreciate you being here. How are you? A mixture of nerves and excitement, and it's normal to be anxious. It's something new. Every year, I would get anxious and nervous for those few weeks before school even went back. And the first day back to school, I was almost a complete mess. So, yep, I'm even nervous now. So please excuse me if I look like I'm referring to notes, but take a deep breath and relax. So thank you also to the wonderful TeachStarter team for organising this webinar and inviting me to share my personal experiences. I'm very honoured to be here. So I'm Catherine. I've been teaching for 31 years. I've taught all grades K to 6 in 3 schools and in 2 towns. I've mostly been a full-time teacher, except for having maternity leave for 3 of my own children. And so I know what it's like to be a teacher mum. And I've also been in the role of a literacy and numeracy support teacher. So of course, I've experienced many changes in teaching over my time. But you know, there are many things that have done the full circle and they've been reinvented, and now they've given them a new acronym and it's just come back again. But the style of teaching has changed. The classroom setup's changed, desk arrangements, from the teacher standing in front of the room doing most of the talking. Information access was limited. It came in an encyclopedia or a textbook, perhaps a video, yes, if you can know what videos are way before DVDs, or a television program. The classroom didn't have access to the internet. Teaching tools were limited. A video player was probably our best technology, and then along came the photocopier. Tasks were work-based learning. So the teacher gave the information, students copied notes and were expected to absorb it and present it back. There was most of your assessment, written work and written tests. I will say the curriculum was less crowded. We had maths, English, art, sport, social studies, science, religion or scripture, and music. Today, we have access to all the information. You do not need to be an expert and know it all, and this is okay. And I love the mantra, everyone is a learner, everyone is a teacher. It's okay to say to your students, I don't know, but let's find out. Students these days have different experiences and quite often they're teaching us. I was teaching kindergarten. I had iPads that were new to our classroom, and a child came up and showed me their screen where the keyboard was split in 2. And I went, oh, I don't know what to do with it. It looks broken to me. And along comes another child over my arm and just goes, pitches it back together and fixed. Who would know? I introduced coding and Spheros to my Year 2 class. I only had very basic knowledge. So we started with the basics and I let the children explore. They went and learnt something new Then they come back and show the rest of the class. So we're all, again, teachers and learners. Being a teacher is being a lifelong learner. When you look back at your first years of programming, the paperwork and the way you taught, you'll have a laugh. There was no social media in my early years of teaching. Later, when the internet became a thing, I would get ideas from websites. We'd go and visit classrooms, like your classrooms around in your own school. We'd go to other schools and visit classrooms. And I loved it because I'd love wandering around in someone else's classroom and have a look at this. And, oh, how did you set your groups up for that? And how did you organise this? I've even been in other classrooms and taken photos back then. Mind you, the film, yeah. Anyway, teaching has always been taking ideas, mixed with your own, tweaking it to suit your situation. There are not too many original ideas out there now, but there are lots of versions. A few years ago, I began Instagram and Twitter to connect with like-minded, passionate teachers and educators, so I'd be less isolated in my teaching. Even after years of teaching, when I started on Instagram, I ended up following trends. I brought things I didn't need. I wanted to be part of the group. Then I finally came to the realization I was people pleasing. I had put the pressure and expectations on myself, and I was being led by my own insecurities. I was comparing snapshots on Instagram to my teaching. Now I'm much more confident in what I'm doing, and I know I'm doing my best. We live in a society that is information overload, especially as a new teacher. It's hard to know what to listen to or what to follow. Use social media wisely. You do not have to copy what other teachers are doing. Think, is it relevant to my situation? Is it going to benefit my students? Use social media for connecting and sharing, not comparing. A couple of other pieces of sage advice I'd give my early teaching self is to ask questions. Find out, be prepared to learn. It's hard to know what to do, which advice to take. So if you do not have a mentor, seek one out. Someone you trust, someone who is patient, someone who's going to be supportive. Parents are the first educators in their child's life. I used to be very anxious about parents, but really, they just want their child to be happy, to have friends, to be learning, and to be progressing. Not sure what to teach? You have your state or the Australian curriculum. I'm in New South Wales, so of course New South Wales has its own still. Then start with the school scope and sequence and expectations. So a lot of things are set in schools and the way they want things done, so start there. To start with, look at the previous year's programs. You don't have to worry about reinventing the wheel. If things have already been done, start off there. Then you can make your own adjustments and work on things to make it your own. Get to know your students is the key. Build trust through relationships. Know their needs. What are their backgrounds? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their interests? What are their dreams? Spend time talking to them outside the classroom environment. Your teaching is about your students. Each one is your why. Be you. Be the teacher you would love to have. Listen, be patient, be fair, but consistent. You do not need to have everything figured out. Be prepared and organised, have direction, but be super flexible because quite often things do not go according to plan. Distance yourself as much as you can from negativity. It will suck the life out of you. Be professional. Avoid negative staff room discussions involving children and parents or even colleagues. Lead with a kind and compassionate heart. Your self-care, your well-being, and your mental health is a priority. Burnout is real. I'll put my hand up. I've felt it. I've been there. Use your sick leave when you need it. Don't become a slave to your work. Prioritise tasks, those with deadlines. You can always find something to add to your do list. Set limits and boundaries and learn to say, no thanks. And don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. Teaching is about learning and growing. 31 years of teaching and I am still learning. You will make mistakes. Learn from it. Move on. Most importantly, enjoy your teaching. Know you are making a huge difference in many lives. And with that, I thank you and I wish you an exciting and wonderful year.
Thank you so much, Kath. And on behalf of everyone who's listening into that, round of applause. I'm sure we're all clapping all around Australia and perhaps the world where we're listening to that. So many takeaways there. I wish I had you to tell me all that when I was about to start teaching, and even maybe in the last 5 years too that I was teaching. It was just really good. So about the social media, just it's there to connect. It's not to imitate. Brilliantly said. Obviously, it's changed a lot over the 31 years you've been teaching, and I think anyone who's been in the classroom longer than say even 5 years will probably say that it's changed quite a bit as well. So all I can reiterate to everyone listening is Kath is spot on. I think all the teachers, the experienced teachers that are around who have heard this or with us here at TSAT tonight would absolutely agree with Kath and say she is spot on. Thank you so much, Kath. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, we better go over to our next presentation now. Which I believe is a young gentleman called Paul, who's going to talk to you this evening about behaviour management. Sorry? Oh, it's me. Right, sorry. My apologies. I get a bit distracted sometimes. It comes with the territory. No, all right. I'm joking around a little bit, but I probably should be because we are talking about behaviour management. And I guess I'll start off my presentation this evening by saying, what is the most important skill a teacher must possess? Is it a complete knowledge of the curriculum and ability to explain every elaboration? Is it the ability to know and understand and implement every learning strategy? Is it the ability to plan, to differentiate, or to communicate? Look, all of those things are clearly important, but if you can't manage the children in the classroom, it's probably all for nothing. Now, the realisation of the importance of behaviour management can be quite daunting for student and graduate teachers, and even for experienced teachers who are moving to a new year level or a new school, or maybe even both. But like any aspect of teaching, a bit of forethought, a bit of preparation will make all the difference. So with that, I'd like to share some guiding principles for behaviour management that have served me well in my teaching career. And I should point out that these are very general in nature, and their purpose is to give you just a foundation to develop your own strategy and style. And hopefully these considerations will help ease any anxiety you have about behaviour management and make you the master of your own domain, namely your classroom. All right, let's get into it. The first tip I have to give you is have a plan. You wouldn't attempt to teach a lesson without a plan. So why would you attempt to implement a whole class behaviour management strategy without any forethought? Chances are that you've already seen or heard of or even know a technique that you like or that works. If that's the case, go with it. All that's left to do is to adapt it to your school and to your class. It's important to consider your school's behaviour management policies and procedures. Any approach or strategy that you employ in your classroom and the rewards or the corrections therein, they should reflect the nature and the expectations of the whole school policy. For example, I like to use a strategy that rewards students as they go along, allowing them to progress up of levels of privilege in the classroom. The school that I was working at had values that they like to encourage, so I just made sure that I rewarded my students for displaying those values in our class setting, and that then allowed them to go up the table of privileges. There are a whole heap of range of theories and frameworks out there, and TSAT has a huge array of behaviour-based resources, including some whole class strategies. Now, I'm going to share my screen just to very quickly show you a couple of things that we've got. So just bear with me for a second whilst I do that. Okay. It's always that little pregnant pause while we organise ourselves, isn't it? Okay. Here we go. potentially, thinking about it. Okay. And here you can see our website, hopefully. And if you just type into our search bar there, behaviour, you'll see what pops up is a little behaviour resource collection. And in that, we've got 542 teaching resources that you can use in your classroom. So you'll see on the left-hand side here, we've got a little breakdown of some subcategories. So motivation, rules and expectations, positive reinforcement, and social skills. So hopefully there's something that'll get you started at least, or something that you can use to help supplement the rest of your behaviour management strategy. All right, we'll jump out of that. Okay, so our next part, oops, just having a little trouble here on my end, and we're back. It's just taking a little bit of a lag there, sorry. So when you're coming up with a plan for yourself, whatever you choose, just make sure you're comfortable with it and you can make it work in your classroom. Have a plan. Next, be positive. Positive reinforcement is the most common and best regarded approach to managing behaviour. Look, put very simply, it means recognising preferred behaviours so that they are more likely to be repeated. Rewards are typically part of such an approach, but they don't have to be too elaborate. For example, just simply praising good behaviour is a great motivator for students. I always found that getting the students' input regarding the rewards that you'd like to have put in the classroom was very beneficial, and it made the process more motivating for them. At some point, you are going to have to address some bad behaviour, and punishments may have to be used. It's important that you remain positive in these situations as well, which can be quite a challenge at times. Again, your school behaviour management policy will usually be pretty clear about what to do in those situations, and that should be incorporated into your classroom approach as well. Now, there will be times where a behaviour is very confronting and needs to be stopped immediately. There is such a thing as positive punishment. Now, the old go-to might have been to raise your voice or clap your hands, make some big loud noise to get the person to stop. But you could do something like distraction, or even using humour with a random statement. As you might guess, I do use humour a lot, and I can remember one situation where 2 Year 6 boys were getting very heated under the collar in the playground. Hadn't quite got to the physical stage yet, but a lot of verbal back and forth. I've gone over to investigate, and I just came up with a random statement while they were arguing, going, "I really like watching television." And they both looked at me and said, "What?" So the moment they said "what," I knew I distracted them, and then we could start having the conversation. I actually kept going and said, yeah, I really like, and started talking a little bit, just diffuses the situation. Might not work all the time, but it's just something that you can use. Distraction, a way to get away from the behaviour rather than shouting. Saves your voice too. Another important feature of the positive approach is to restore your relationship with any child that's misbehaved. Saying something as simple as, "I don't like that behaviour, but I'm really pleased you stopped," that will help shine at least some positive light on what could be a negative situation. So when negative behaviours present themselves, when I was teaching, I'd always remind myself that all behaviour is motivated. Good behaviour comes from feeling good. Bad behaviour comes from feeling bad. Sometimes a naughty student just might need a kind word or a calming influence from a trusted adult. So as I said, be positive in your behaviour management strategy and approach. The next tip is to recognise the differences or cater to the individuals. As you know, every child's different, and as such, there's going to be differences in how you deal with each student. There are those personal issues that sometimes affect individual students that you'll have to consider when applying your behaviour management strategy. There are also general differences that you'll need to consider, for example, between older and younger students, and perhaps even between boys and girls. If you're unfamiliar with the nuances of a student or a group of students in your class, usually your fellow teachers will be the best source of information. For a specific student, check in with their previous teachers and ask what worked for them. How your preferred strategy recognises these differences should be a key factor in its adoption and in implementation. It's not feasible to have a separate set of rules and expectations for every single child, but you should be able to apply whatever strategy you choose consistently whilst respecting the individual. So recognizing differences, just account for the individual differences that may exist between groups of students or individual students themselves. Now, I mentioned consistency, and I know Kath mentioned it as well. And if I could only give you 3 tips for behaviour management, they would be number 1, consistency, number 2, consistency, and number 3, consistency. Put simply, if you're not consistent in the application of your strategies, they won't work. Consistency will take several forms in your classroom behaviour management. So first, if you say you're going to do something, you actually have to do it. So for example, if you tell a child that they'll be staying in at lunchtime and if they keep misbehaving, you've got to follow through. You might miss out on your break if you're able to have it anyway, but that student and the rest of the class, when they see you follow through, they'll understand the consequences for their behaviour choices. Consistency is also important when you're deciding how to address those challenging behaviours. For example, can you consistently keep missing your breaks? Can you consistently keep sending a child to the principal's office? Something else to consider there. Secondly, for consistency, your expectations should be consistent across all children in your class. Or said another way, the same rules are for everyone. Now, thinking back to the principle of recognising differences, there may be some children who need support or special consideration, but in general terms, everyone should be treated equally. So like Cath said, being fair. Finally, as we already mentioned, your behaviour management system should also be consistent with your school's policies and procedures. Making yourself familiar with these would be a really good starting point before developing a customised approach for your class. So that's consistency. And the last tip I have for you, be confident. I used to always tell my student teachers that teaching is 90% confidence. A more modern way of saying that is fake it till you make it. But what does confidence look like in behaviour management terms? Well, it could be walking into the classroom, chest puffed out, voice booming, and a stare that says lightning bolts could shoot from your eyes at any moment. I would suggest a less exhausting tactic. In my experience, the vast majority of misbehaviour in the classroom is just students seeing what they can get away with, particularly in the early part of the year. Approach your behaviour management with a quiet confidence, an attitude that could be described as, kids, seen it all before, let's move on, even if you haven't seen it all before. Confidence is a natural byproduct of success, and you will experience success in your behaviour management if you have a plan, if you're positive, if you respect the individual, and consistently apply your approach. See what I did there? So the 5 general principles in closing are: have a plan, be positive, recognise difference, be consistent, and be confident. In simple terms, a good behaviour management strategy is one that recognises and reinforces good behaviours, ignores the less desirable ones, and has processes in place to deal with negative or antisocial behaviour. As I mentioned earlier, TeachStarter has a behaviour resource collection, so do take a look through our resources and pick out something that will work for you and your class. The last little piece of advice I'll give is to not be afraid of making adjustments or changes, or just going with something completely different if it's not working out. And as Kath said, don't be afraid to ask for help. Here's to you having a great year of teaching and learning. Good luck out there. Have fun. All right. That's it for me. I'm actually going to throw over to Emily now. And as we were saying, Emily has just spent her first year in the classroom, and she is going to share some of her experiences and give you a little bit of advice. Over to you, Emily.
Hi, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you TeachStarter for having me. I know that this time last year I was a bundle of nerves, and I actually just had a look on Instagram and saw a photo of myself and some other beginning teachers and graduates at the TeachStarter event last year. So I know every year I've been attending for a couple now, and I always get something wonderful and I take it with me. So I hope that you are all writing down some little notes, or you'll have something to take away with you for the start of the year. First of all, a big congratulations on graduating if you are a fresh new graduate, and kudos to you for getting through that during COVID. I have some friends that I know that graduated, and you guys are superstars. If you can do that, you can do anything. And if you're a beginning teacher like me, well done for getting through last year as well. It's crazy, but it can only go up from here. This year will be one that you will never forget. Your graduate year is filled with every emotion. There were emotions I hadn't even felt before that I felt last year. It's full of ups and downs, but you learn so much in your beginning years, and it's just learning. And that's what Kath was talking about. You just constantly learning. But last year was a big year for me. I learned so much. First of all, I learned from my colleagues. Your colleagues are there to help you. They are phenomenal. I guess it's a good profession, teaching, because teachers love helping people and they love sharing knowledge, and it's just wonderful. So if you have a question about something, whether you need a set of eyes to look over an email before you send it. I know that in my first couple of weeks, I was worried about emails. So I would ask someone to have a read over it. That was really great. Or whether, I didn't know the first thing about PM benchmarking. Uni never did that for me. So I asked somebody and they sat down with me one afternoon and took me through it, and they're just wonderful. So definitely ask questions from your colleagues if you need to. Well, you definitely will need to. So many questions, but don't be afraid to ask. You will learn from parents. Communication is key. Like Kath said, they just want the best. I really found that the more communication, the better. They just want to know what's going on. And I used to nanny for a few years, and every single time any of the kids got in the car, how was school? What did you do today? Nothing. I don't know. It's not a really enjoyable conversation. But if the parents can go, oh, how was your, I don't know, claymation today, then they can have a chat about it, and it's really nice for them to have a talk about it too. You will learn so much from your students. Every single day is a brand new day. They will make you laugh in a new way. They will pull something out that you've never even heard them say. They will excel. They will learn something new. You'll see the little light bulb go off, and it's amazing. So you'll learn so much from your students, but most of all, you will learn from yourself and about yourself. Those first couple of weeks, you're constantly looking around going, who left me with all of these students? Where is the adult? When are they coming? I don't know what is going on. That's okay. You will learn how to do everything. You are now the boss. You are the one. So you will learn how you like your routines. You will learn how you like to organize things. You'll learn how to deal with issues, how you like to deal with issues or problems that come up. You'll learn how you like behavior management best. You'll learn how you like to assess, how you like your room to look and feel, how you like to approach tricky topics. You will learn how you like to do things. And what do we tell our students? But we learn through making mistakes. So you'll learn through making mistakes. I'm still doing it. Today I went into school and I completely rearranged my little office and all of my organization because it just didn't work last year. We kept going. I survived, the kids survived, and I'm going to try something new this year for my filing. Not very good at filing. Prac never prepares you for that. Ever. It's your space. So trial, error, have a go, try this, try that. It's all about trying, and you'll learn so much about yourself through this process. It's amazing. You'll have a great time. What else can I tell you? Make sure that you talk to your principal quite early about your accreditation. I know this is the last thing that you want to be talking about or thinking about right now, but after a year of teaching, you can go on to be a proficient teacher if you've done your portfolio. Now, every single principal is different, and some might want an online portfolio, some might want a paper portfolio. Just having that conversation will put your mind at ease and their mind at ease, and it's just an easy combo. You have the whole year, so don't stress, but I think having that conversation really early is super helpful. Otherwise, I hope you have the most amazing 2021. No matter what it brings, it will be fabulous, I know. Remember to laugh with your students. They are the most important memories. I remember those ones where we just laughed for 5 minutes straight and it was just like a great time. So make sure you laugh. They'll remember those ones too. Make sure you listen to yourself. Make sure you listen to your body and what it needs. It might need exercise. It might need relaxation. It might need healthy food. It might need carbs. You be kind to yourself. Be kind to your mind. Be kind to your body. And you will crush it. Congratulations again and have the most amazing year.
Thank you very much, Emily. That's just listening to you talk there is getting a little bit nostalgic. My first year teacher, it's kind of good to know that it's sort of the same, but obviously a little bit different as well. I think that's a common theme that's coming through tonight is asking questions. That's the big tip I think that that we're going to give to everyone tonight. But yeah, and congratulations to you, Emily, surviving your first year of teaching during COVID and during lockdowns. That must have been fun.
Definitely learnt lots, which we're always learning. We're always learning.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, look, if any of you are out there this evening worried about you going to your first year of teaching with COVID still sort of lurking around the corner, look at Emily. She's done it. She's come through the other side and has turned it into a learning opportunity and has got so much better for it. Thank you so much, Emily. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, and our last presenter for this evening is Emma. As we said, Emma is one of our content producers here at TeachStarter, and she's going to be talking to you about getting ready to start the new school year. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you very much, Paul. And I have to say, I have been feeling exactly the same way as you. I am super nostalgic right now. I was a teacher in Brisbane for 7 years and I've worked at TeachStarter for 2.5 years now. And it is so nice to hear the stories of somebody who is fresh and hopefully you will have some of those stories at the end of this year as well. So I am just going to talk to you a little bit about your first day at school because that is really one of the biggest humps that you need to get over before you can begin to find your flow. As Kath said and Emily, it is incredibly nerve-wracking to show up on your first day of school knowing that pretty soon you'll have a whole class of kids that belong to you and nobody else in the room to tell you what to do or give you advice. But just go with the flow and be flexible and you'll be fine. Your brain will be buzzing, no doubt. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice for getting ready for the first day and then what you might expect throughout the course of the first day. So hopefully something that I say will give you some confidence and get you looking forward to maybe next week or a couple of weeks' time, I think. Yeah, that's right. Don't feel like you have to take what I'm going to say as gospel. It's purely some suggestions. And I just want to give you some things to think about. So before your first day, make sure that your classroom is set up and ready to go. That includes things like that you have enough furniture for your students. You've tested out your electrical equipment. You know how to connect to the projector or the display, whatever you might be using. You don't want to be figuring those things out in the morning on your first day because you don't need that extra stress. Sometimes you might get a surprise. You might have a student who has enrolled right before the first day of school that you haven't been prepared for. So if you've done something really nice for your class, you've got some desk plates for your students or you've got a jobs list or something, make sure you've got a few extra labels so that you can pop that new kid's name on those and help them fit in right away. You might need to source another desk extra quick. But as I said, be flexible, know where extra things are if you might need them. Make sure that you have a plan for what you might be in store for. So where are the kids going to put their belongings when they show up? Their drink bottles, their books, their bags, those kinds of things. You don't have to have a Pinterest-ready classroom, but making your classroom nice and welcoming with some topic-specific displays for your key learning areas, or some general displays like a calendar or jobs list. They're really nice for students to see as they come in on the first day of school. But also leave some room for some collaborative displays with your students, or to put up some of the student work that no doubt your students will be producing in no time. Classrooms don't have to be picture perfect. I know Pinterest makes it seem like they do, but what is picture perfect is building a classroom environment with your students, and that can't happen before the first day. You might also like to get ready for your first day by picking out your outfit or what you're going to eat for lunch to give you something to look forward to, and you can grab it. It might be a bit hard, but make sure that you have a good night's sleep as well. And remind yourself as you're falling asleep that it's okay if it doesn't all go to plan, if you don't get everything done that you wanted to get done. As Kath said, teaching is about the students. They're your why. So the first day is really the first opportunity that you have to build a relationship with your new students. And as long as you've done that, then your day was a success. Now, on the morning of the first day, I would recommend getting there maybe 45 minutes to half an hour at least before school starts, so that you're ready to greet the students and the parents as they arrive. You might even have a staff meeting. So you want to make sure that you are satisfied that your classroom's ready to go if you have to run off, or if you have parents and students coming in all day and you have to give them your attention before the first day starts. So don't leave your photocopying for the first day before school, because no doubt there'll be a line of teachers who should know better who have left their photocopying for the first day. Make sure that you're prepared for conversation with parents. So, you know, they might want to know, where do I put my students' books? Or can you please remind Jimmy that he's going home with his grandma this afternoon, or he needs to go to after school care? It might be handy to have a little notepad that you can take down notes about things that you need to remember to remind children about. And as I said earlier, having a spot already chosen for kids' drink bottles, kids' bags, kids' books and stationery, that can really help the morning go a little bit more smoothly. Schools don't like this, so I would check before you do so, but you might like to email parents a few days before school starts to introduce yourself. Let them know what to expect on the first day, give them some information, maybe the timetable for the week, and tell them what your first day expectations are, including what time they can drop their kids off and when lessons start, as a bit of a hint. But as I said, check with your school first if that's okay. And then once your kids arrive and the parents are all left, you can get into your activities for the day. And I will reiterate this over and over again, but be flexible. The reality is you're probably only going to get through 50 to 70% of what you plan for the day. So plan a full day, including some backup activities, but be prepared for things to go a little off course, as some things might take a little bit longer or a little bit less time than you've anticipated. That will build with your experience, knowing how long different things go for and take. I would recommend some getting to know you activities or team building activities on the first day. We have heaps of those on the Teach Data website. And this helps you set up a positive environment in the classroom, as well as build connections with your students. The kids might already know each other if they've been going through school together, but don't assume that that's the case. So play some games where they can get to know each other, talk about what they've done over the holidays, get to do a find a word, or an activity like a STEM challenge where they have to achieve something together, and don't be afraid to participate yourself and help them get to know you as well. You will need to take some time to sort their belongings and get their books and pencils ready. Make sure that you keep track of who everything belongs to, so that you know later in the term, if they've run out of something, where they can go and grab it from. And you might like to put some more key learning area specific activities in as well. You know, you don't want to bombard them with heavy content, but you want to hook them into the topics that you're going to be teaching throughout the term, and maybe some basic literacy and numeracy games or activities so that you can kind of gauge their abilities before you start your lessons in earnest. As Paul said, he's already spoken about behaviour management, so I won't go into too much detail, but set the precedent from day one. Make sure that you tell the kids exactly what you expect. You might like to build some rules together with the kids so that they feel a bit of ownership about those things. And you might also doubt yourself when you're putting in your behaviour management plan, because it's hard to know, oh, am I being too harsh? Am I being too lenient? But be flexible with this as well, and as you get to know your students. Have a bit of downtime, read a book, enjoy your day, make sure that you're taking it all in and getting to know the students as much as you can. And then at the end of the day, make sure you leave a bit of time for tidy up. And then when you get home, just be kind to yourself. Have some takeout. Make sure that your room's ready for tomorrow so that you don't have to stress all over again in the morning. But relax and congratulate yourself on getting through the first day, and look forward to seeing those smiling faces all over again the next day and the next day and the rest of the year. Sorry, I know I spoke a mile a minute there, but I really hope that some of what I said you were able to take in. And if I could leave you with one message, it would just be to enjoy the experience. Make sure that you are taking it all in and being flexible and enjoying being the boss in the classroom, and having the opportunity to work with children, which is absolutely wonderful. So good luck.
Thank you very much, Emma. Again, it was just great to hear those tips, and yeah, it took me right back to getting a classroom ready, and then obviously hearing Emily talk about her first year and Kath's experience. Almost makes me wish I was getting ready to go back to the classroom, quite honestly. So, yeah, if anyone can find, no, I won't say if anyone can find a teaching job. I love T-Stars, they're great. But no, thank you, Emma. Awesome job. All right, everyone, we're pretty much at the end of our webinar now. So we're going to start to wrap things up. So before you go, a couple of reminders before you leave. First of all, I'd like to remind you that this webinar has been recorded. So if you missed anything, or you had to leave, or you've come back, etc., we will send that out to you. It will be emailed out to you. Second reminder, don't forget, if you're a graduate teacher, you are eligible for a 50% discount on your annual membership. Go to teachstarter.com/grads and see what you have to do to get that discount. Also, when you leave this evening, as you log out of the webinar, you'll be asked to complete a short survey. Now, just to add a little bit of extra spice to it, anyone who completes their feedback and completes the survey will go into the draw to win a year subscription to T-Starter, and that winner will be announced via email. So do take the time to complete the survey. We'd love to hear what you have to say. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I want to thank Kath, Emily and Emma for being such great presenters and passing on that wealth of information. We here at T-Starter are always trying to help teachers out and find ways to save you time and make your classrooms buzz. So if you do need to get in touch with us for anything, you can always do so at the email address support@teachstarter.com, and we'll try and help you out to the best of our ability. With that, I'm going to bring this lovely webinar to a close. Again, thank you for your participation. Thank you for being here this evening, and I wish you all the best for your first year in the classroom. Good luck. Good night.